Thank you for being patient, Rocky. Okay, one more again. I don't know. It did this the last time, um, with our other guests. Okay, 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 okay,
We
okay.
made it.
Here
We
we
made
go. We did it. We did it. We
it.
did it. We
We
did
did
it.
it. Uh,
Say that one more time.
okay, can you try talking again? Your audio was funny for a second.
Yeah. How are you
Okay,
feeling today? How is the
perfect.
weather?
It's a little cold, but I'm actually feeling really good. I really
Good.
am. Um,
Good.
super, super tiny, quick note. About a month or two ago, I returned back to my birth name, and so
Please,
I actually go by Raquel now. I have
Raquel.
not yet done the whole rebranding of Rocky's Root Care, so and
Okay.
no worries at all. I accidentally call myself Rocky all the time, but
Okay.
just for the press for when this gets posted, Raquel.
Yeah. Thank you so much. And
Hmm.
if I can change the title, I'll change the title. But thank you for letting me know. Absolutely. That's how we'll move forward.
Hmm.
And thank you for your patience with the live. This happened the last time. I am not sure why it takes so many tries to get the live up and going, but we're here now.
We are here.
Okay. 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 So you got the question list.
I did get the
Okay.
question.
And how this goes is we'll just kind of flow in and out of questions. I Your theme was so beautiful. So I'm gonna try
Yeah.
very hard to stick to my questions, but there were so many wonderful, like resonating points, like
Cartina.
throughout it. Um, but I'm gonna stay focused. I'm gonna stay focused. So let's just hop right in,
Yeah.
and I
I
want
mean,
to.
but also if you go a little off rails, I'm very flex. Like, just
Okay,
do what
thank
you
you.
need to do. It's fine.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Thank you. Okay. Um, let's let's do some introductions and then we'll get right into the questions, okay? So, hi everyone. Thank you for those that are here in the chat with us and those that are catching this on the replay. My name is Sequoia. I use she and her pronouns, and I am one half of the Reclaiming Soul Work podcast, where we are two Black queer femme social workers to talk about the intersections of spirituality, social work, mental health, and everything in between. This is our series where we highlight writings about those intersections, and writings, including like books, zines, articles, blog posts. So we have had quite a few folks that were interested in sharing, what their offerings were. And we're just so glad to have you here today, Raquel. If you would please introduce yourself, and then we'll get on into the questions.
Yeah. So my name's Raquel. I'm from a small city in a small town called Houston, Texas. And I'm currently a PhD student at Brown, studying somewhere between, or not even studying, but responsive to learning with Black women's spiritual care practices and Black farming practices and Black common. I am a farmer in training. I'm an herbalist. I am someone who honors my ancestors. I'm a Lukumi practitioner. My godmom is in the chat right here. Sending so much love. And I am someone I'm the owner of Rocky's Root Care, which will soon be going through a little rebrand now that I'm no longer going by Rocky. But that's a brief introduction into who I am.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. Again, it is a pleasure. It really, really is. So I'm gonna start with some questions that I didn't prep you for.
That's fine.
Okay. And they're fun. Just a few that we usually like start our live stream podcast on YouTube with. So for folks that are joining us, we have kind of shifted to IG Lives for our check-ins with folks. If you go on our IG page, one of the links is to our YouTube channel, and you can check out our previous live streams that we had on YouTube. But for today, I want to just hop right in. And I don't know, do you use tarot cards, Raquel?
I have in the past.
Okay. What about spiritual tools?
Honestly, for me, recently, lately, the most at the beginning of my journey, I used a lot of crystals, a lot of pendulums, a lot of and those things are still so important for me. But my main practice at the moment is being in front of my altar.
Okay.
And like doing things in my body.
I love that. Great question then. Is there a practice that you kind of go to right now related to movement?
Yeah, so actually on Monday, I started a Qigong class with a Baba in Lukumi. So I think he's been 30 years crowned Obatala, and we've been learning so much about how to connect with the energy in our body, how to flow into that energy. And it's been such a grounding. I feel like my anxiety and stress levels in these past 4 days have just plummeted. I feel more less stress, and it's really a practice that brings us back to understanding of our own connection to our energy, to the what's flowing throughout us. And so that's been a really beautiful practice for me, just dancing and somatic and just getting out of my body, ways to just burn the energy off sometimes, has been really important. Another physical practice that's really important to me is being around other people, hugging people that I love. Being in spaces with other people who have the same ideas and goals that I have, and just being able to bounce off and reverberate off of that. So I think that is a physical practice of being in the body, is the way that we're able to relate to other people.
Absolutely.
Just as ourselves, singing with other people, dancing, chanting, protest, all the work that we do. That's been a really important practice.
I love that. Thank you so much for sharing that. That is a beautiful practice. And yeah, thank you for just letting us know what you got going on, what's in your toolbox.
Yeah.
Yeah. It wouldn't be a book chat, a writing chat. If I didn't ask you, what are you reading? Are you reading anything? Do you have anything in your cart maybe that you like to read?
So, um, I'm right now reading Conversations with God and the Four Agreements. So Conversations with God is a book that I came across maybe around like 3, 4 years ago. I listened to the first hour of the audiobook and it gave me like a little mini existential crisis, thinking about like our relationships to the collective consciousness, our relationships to God, like what all these things mean and how we can
Mm,
take responsibility for our own energy and really step into that power. And I put it down for like a few years, and then this past Sunday I listened to the whole thing through, and it's been a really transformative space of getting me to think about my own, like how my own thoughts, how my own words, how my own actions are creating the reality that I'm living in, getting me to really sit and think about what it means for me to honor my feelings, what it means for me to recognize the creator within me and how I'm also playing a role in this, getting me to take responsibility for how I have like given away some of my power. And so that's been a really important book. Also reading Decolonial Ecologies by Malcolm Ferdinand, reading some stuff on racial capitalism. And so my shelf is always a mix of like spiritual and political stuff. And so that's what's on my brain. Um,
okay.
yeah. One of
Love that.
my faves of all time, I'm not reading it at the moment, but I always got to highlight it. Finding the Soul on the Path of Orisha by Toby
Mm,
L'Oreal. I read that book 4 or 5 years ago at the very beginning of my journey, and it hits every time. It's like a gateway drug. I give it to everybody who's thinking about anything I'm thinking about.
cool. Cool. Thank you for sharing that with us. I love this list. Always looking to add to my reading list, so thank you for that. I think the last thing that I will ask you is, and I mentioned this during our last writing chat. Biani and I see this question a lot in our like clinician groups on Facebook and in a lot of the comment section, and just wondering, before you either start a project, go into a spiritual offering like your movement practice, or even your practice with the land and earth and farming and things like that, do you do any types of cleansing or reset, for yourself?
This is this is the eternal struggle, right? Hi, Farmady. Um, so this is something that I've wanted to get better at, and I think is like thinking about how to make my relationships to the earth, how to make my relationships to farming, to herbalism, to the spiritual work more sacred, and how to honor the energy that I'm bringing into those spaces. And so I've recently started doing just simple cleanses of, cool water, doing a whole Ori cleanse.
Yes.
But that's like an intention I have, is like, doing more with that, of like bringing in blessings, bringing in ancestor libations, bringing in whether it's smoke cleansing or something else. So it's not a practice that I do consistently, but it's something I think about a lot and I always want to like learn more about.
Cool. Nice. Thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that absolutely resonates. Consistency can mean a lot of things. I think intention, is what the grounding place is around that.
Right.
So yeah, thank you for that. All right, let's get into this zine now. Let's get into this zine, because I I want to start off by sharing like how I came across your work. Um, and of course, the name of the app escapes me, but I saw this app.
Miria. Miria. It's the black owned
Yes,
Yeah.
Yes, that's what it is. I saw them on TikTok, I think, or either somebody was talking about it on TikTok or something. And I was like, oh my goodness, let me go check this app out. I wonder, like what kind of artisans are on there, what type of creators are on there. Let me see what they got. And I believe it was like the book section or the zine section or self-care or something. And I was just looking around, seeing what was going on, and I came across your zine. And I was blown away, one, by the graphics and the way that you described the work. And then when I read the zine, there was just so much there. Um,
It's thick.
so yeah, there was just so much there. So I greatly appreciate what you have offered to the world. I think that there's so much to unpack from your zine. So many different conversations can be had. The reflection questions that you have throughout, but I love the reflection questions that you have at the very beginning. I believe it's a blue page. Or blue is coming to me, makes water is coming to me. Yes.
Mhm.
hmm Those questions are so wonderful.
Mm.
And like I said, I feel like in so many different spaces can be just a beautiful way to think about spirituality, a journey of understanding. And in my head, I put your zine in like, um, so I have a background in yoga. I'm a yoga teacher, and so a lot of the times I think about certain things through the chakra system, the energy system, right? And your zine to me is like root chakra, like the foundation. There's something about foundation that kept coming to me about your zine. And yeah, I don't know. I felt the need to tell folks how I found your work and what it means to me right now, how it's resonating for me. I think that if you are someone that is interested in Black spirituality, Black women, femme, gender nonconforming, spirituality, ways to think about it, ways to enter into the work. If you want to understand more, even about like Raquel's work and journey and some of that like foundational stuff, because there's resources in there. There's just so much in there. Um, it's a really beautiful offering. So I'll stop there. Did you? And I just want to say, is there anything that you'd like to say, kind of at this moment?
Thank you. Just
Yeah.
thank you. That was so beautiful. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you.
Mhm.
I do want to just thank you. I do want to point out the page of blue reflections that you're talking about. With the little moon. Um, those are actually questions that I asked women that I interviewed for my master's thesis, right?
Yes.
And so it's, I was doing this thesis or doing this oral history project with Black women spiritual practitioners in New York, and I was talking to my best friend Glanisha, who I always have to shout out, and she was like, the questions you have, they're cool, but like, how do you make these medicinal? Like, how do you make the actual interview matter for you? Like, how do you bring out introspection and reflection and make it really personal? So these questions are really, really deep, and they force you to sort of like contend with yourself and your place in the world, and like experiences you went through and how your response to those experiences map onto your larger, social and political values, because in many ways they're meant to do that.
Mm-hmm.
And also they are meant to be foundational. When I think of root care, I think of the root chakra, but more fundamentally, I think of like tree roots,
Sure.
and
Yeah.
thinking about
Yeah.
and thinking about what it means for us to get at the foundation of so many different things, and realize, thinking about how in forests the roots of different trees are interconnected, and they communicate with each other. They exchange resources through the mycelium network, through fungi. And think and for me, what that represents is like all of these things are connected, right? Like the lone trees that are cracking out the sidewalk, they are amazing and proud, and we are so, grateful for them, but they're almost never as strong as the ones that have been in the forest in community with so many other species and so many other types of trees, and in that fertile soil with the mycelium. And so for me, the root care comes when we are able to recognize that A, we're not able to do these things alone, and B, that there can't be a artificial separation between it, right? Like, it's not like this is our spiritual work and this is our political work and this is our like personal work and this is the family trauma. No, all of those things are interconnected, just like the trees and the grass and the mycelium and the moss and the soil and the water and the sun. Like, just like all of those things are connected,
Mhm.
so too are all these different spheres within us. And so for me, that's what the root care is. And a lot of that is related to the root chakra, because of a lot of our
Mhm.
foundations, there's a lot of fear that is embedded in that comes from our political reality and like our personal family cultural histories of colonization that have made us like not be able to see the godliness in ourselves and in our traditions and in our practices, and the sort of narratives that we've been taught, the traumas and experiences that we've been through that have made it hard for us to recognize our own value. Like, a lot of that has to, in order to get at the root of so many of those things, you have to talk through and like think about the root chakra. And so it's about the root chakra. It's about tree roots. It's about Angela Davis. You got to grasp at the root. It's about I like plants. I like trees.
Yeah.
It's about the things.
Yeah. Thank you so much for, grounding us in that. And I I greatly appreciate any offering that, and we'll get to this because there's a section in the zine, and it's the last question that talks about um having a connection to nature, and the way that you explained integration really related to the roots like that. Again, my name is Sequoia.
Oh, oh
That's a tree,
yeah.
so that resonates.
I
That
got a pecan
resonates a
tree on my.
lot. I love that. I love that. That resonates so much. So okay. Let's talk a little bit about what inspired you to write your zine.
My master's thesis. Um,
Mm-hmm.
so for my master's thesis, I still need to do, I still need to do like a bigger publication or exhibition or something that, hope, so we'll see what happens with that. But basically, I interviewed 15 Black women spiritual practitioners in New York for my master's thesis. And from those interviews, I created a collective story called Trauma is Carried in the Spirit that summarized the social, political, spiritual frameworks of all these different women. Just taking like, okay, here's this belief that this person has, and here's this experience, and trying to weave all of that together into this story. And then I went back to the people I interviewed and I was like, hey, does this story that I wrote resonate with you? And it was just the responses were just so good. It was like, it feels like I wrote this myself. This resonates with me. This needs to be published. This needs to be in a museum. Like like everyone resonated with the story, even though it was, based on what like 15 different people were saying. And so I really wanted to get this story out there. It's this part, the
Yeah.
pages. And this zine was my first step at doing that. But I'm like, if I'm gonna make a whole zine, and so it started out with like being printed in paper, and it was like maybe like 5 or 10 pages, and I had the story, and then I had maybe like a few of my own poems, and then it just kind of built out. I went back and read some of my old journal entries. I thought about and so some of the things in there are like things from my old journal entries. I looked into my notes app on my phone and saw some toolbox stuff. um And so just things kept getting fleshed out as I started thinking more about, I took chunks of my master's thesis, which are about the spiritual and political intertwinedness of these things, and put some of that in there. We need community, and I was like, oh well, they got to have a works cited because I'm a PhD student and a Virgo. So then I was like, well, we got to add that, and then I was like, let's professionally print it. And so there's this thing that I'm calling a zine, but most people would not say that zines are like full color, like beautiful things. And then I was like, I gotta have some of my art in there.
Yeah.
I gotta put a cute photo of myself on the back. I don't look like this no more. I'm still cute, but I don't look like this.
Okay.
That's what it was. So,
Well, I don't know. I was just gonna say the same thing, that I said at the top of this. I there's so many places that resonate, just around clearly us both having this interest, this calling related to spirituality. I'm an artist as well. And to just zines are, I'm more of a digital collage artist and, have done some zines in the past. But just to see the way that you put all of this together, it was very inspiring, very, very inspiring. Um, That's all I'm gonna say about that.
me and
It was
Canva
just a
are best
wonderful,
friends.
yeah, it was just a wonderful offering. Okay, I think we kind of talked a little bit about like what your process and
Oh
purpose
yeah.
was. Is there anything else that you want to mention about that? Okay.
No, just that we had some struggle days of me hand printing it myself and stapling it together, and just we made it.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
so proud of this, and I actually every now and again there's too long that goes by without me touching one of these, and so I also just want to thank you for this, and because there's so many things that I be needing to hear, that I need to remember, that I need to practice, that's already written. It's like, girl, you figured this out 2 years ago. Go sit down, read what you said, do these reflection questions. And so thank you again for this opportunity and this,
Oh
coming
yeah.
back that you've offered me.
Oh yeah. And that's the process, right? Like that's what it is. Returning, remembering, the bad days, the good days, all of that. That's what the process is. So yeah, thank you for being here. Um, who would you say this book is for, and what do you
Black
hope
women.
they get out of it? Okay.
It's for everybody. I think
Hmm.
there's so many things in this book that could resonate with,
Yeah.
especially the resources and the questions. And so the book is useful for everyone. And I wrote this with Black women in mind, right?
I love that response. Yeah.
Right. And so it's like anybody, we all have traumas carried in our spirit. We all
Hmm.
have, you know, like ancestral challenges and gifts that we have to tap into. We all could use a little bit more political education. We all could use a little bit more kindness and self-care, and a more explicit conversation about decolonization. And also, I am a Black woman who interviewed Black women, who paints Black women, who writes poetry about Black women. And so it's a very particular, you know, intention for me that this is something that is for other Black women who are trying to do that work of connecting with themselves, of trying to do the work of like grappling with, the challenges that so many of us have had with, releasing shame, releasing guilt, releasing jealousy, releasing And not releasing them in the sense of being like, oh, this isn't a problem I have to do anymore, but releasing the weight of it, because we have because we've built up the tools for how to like navigate those situations. And
Yes.
I'll be the first one to say that I am not perfect at this, but I am so much better at it than I was a while ago. And so I wrote these, not, and I think I make it explicitly clear multiple times, like, I'm not a guru, I'm not an expert, I don't know what's best for you. Here's just some questions, some resources, some ideas, some art, some inspiration that can
Yeah.
like push you to figure out what makes the most sense for you, in the same way that it helps me figure out what makes the most sense for me. And so it's about the process of like continuously building up that toolbox.
Mm-hmm.
And so yeah, I love the zine, and I love Black women. I love everybody, and I also, not but, and I love everybody, and
Yes.
this is specifically for Black
Yes.
women.
Yes. I love it. I love that. Okay. Let's see. I want to ask. Let's talk a little bit about this. Because I put this question on here, and yeah, I want to talk about it. Um, let's see. Okay, so how does your zine bridge the topics of social justice, spirituality, and mental health? I know for me, in checking out the zine and thinking about it from a few different perspectives. So being a mental health practitioner that incorporates spiritual practices, spiritual interventions into the offerings that I have with folks, like as you mentioned before, there's this political aspect to it, and political in the sense of not only showing up as your full self, but also putting yourself first. And that in itself is political to me, right? And so, yeah, just wondering what do you think about that question? What kind of came to your mind when you were thinking about that?
It's that, like so many of the women I interviewed, it's this idea that those things can't be understood as separate. Oh my God, they're so cute.
Oh,
Um, that,
she's making noise, so I'm like, shush.
I think it was Audre Lorde, if not Angela Davis, who said,
Mm-hmm.
like, the personal is political,
Mm-hmm.
And I think so often folks in our spiritual community, we like to think that we can, if we can just vibrate high enough, what's happening in this physical realm doesn't matter anymore. And I think there's so many folks in the political space who also are so focused on like, well, we just need to like fix this policy, and like aren't spending as much of that energy also like turning within and like navigating, doing their own inner work. And I think it's
Yes.
it's both, always, all the time,
Yes.
in the sense that, as the collective story says, not everyone's meant to be doing the same work. Some people are meant to be doing on the front lines, other people are meant to be doing care work for people on the front lines.
Yes.
But we all have to understand that it's like part of our spiritual work needs decolonization. Part of our, like, in order for us to really truly tap into the gifts and figure out, we actually have to contend with ways that our understanding of ourselves and our ancestors, our understanding of our relationships to each other, our understandings of our relationships to nature has been shaped by colonialism, by capitalism, and by white supremacy. And so our spiritual work requires decolonization, and our political work requires a shift in the collective consciousness too. And so it's both one and the same. And
Yes.
for me, the root, like, going, what Angela Davis says, grasping at the root, it's both about the sort of structural change and changing the sort of relations that we have, changing the understandings, the values, the norms that support those structures. And so it's both.
I Yes, like Zen Wellness Space says in the chat, so true. I
Yeah,
absolutely, agree with that. And just going back to
that's my
your
sister in another
initial,
timeline.
oh, nice. Okay. Your initial kind of explanation about root care, that there aren't these separations between like family and self and work and the ways that you name that it's actually all together, right? Because we're taking our whole selves into those places, and you can, but it's very difficult to compartmentalize those things. um Something that came to me while you were talking, um do you want to, can you describe the zine a little bit more, like the sections or the way that you formatted it, or like what you were thinking about the flow of, yeah, of the format of it?
Um, Honestly, so there's like a few big things in the
Mhm.
zine. So one, there's the collective story, which I really, this, which is based on the idea of like trauma is carried in the spirit, like these sort of like practices of decolonization and enslavement, or, the experiences our ancestors have had, that have made it not feel safe in certain spaces, whether it's certain types of spiritual practices or certain types of like relating to nature, like that has been passed down across generations and has been normalized as culture and stereotypes of like, oh, Black people don't go hiking, or oh, Black people don't do that, or oh, that's a white thing. And linking that to the sort of like larger political work and like everyone's inner work and everyone's um, like linking both the self and the community and all of that. I felt like that needed to be at the forefront. But after that, I'm gonna be so for real with you.
Yeah.
Most of the ordering is, I had an idea of like, I was like, oh, this page I want it to be pink. This page I want it to be white. And then it's like things got ordered based on what it looked good next to. I was like, I can't have two dark pages, me one white. Gotta have the poems spread out. And so a lot of it was, wanting to have the resources at the end, wanting to
Yeah.
have the collective story at the beginning, wanting to have points of reflection throughout.
Yeah.
And then it was just like let's make it pretty. So a lot of things got moved around because I was like, it needs to be pretty. I was
Well,
like,
that
graph,
resonates. I
you
love
know.
that. Yes. I love that. And again, it was, I mean, it's clearly like a reflection of your experience, but it's also very approachable. It's very personal. It's very like something that you can get lost in the sense of there's so many places that you can go with the zine, like so many different areas that, you can take kind of month by month, even like one page per month, and just like think about what it means to you, how it applies to your life. I was looking at the My Core Beliefs
Mm,
page,
mm.
and yeah, okay, so tell me about the mm-mm-ms. I want to hear
Yeah.
more about that.
Well, first of all, that page came out of, this was one of those things with me going through my notes app and going through my old journal entries to be like, what are the things that have really resonated with me over the years that I want to put in this? And I wanted to stand 10 toes down in some of those.
Hmm.
One being something that I need to be reminded of so often, which is that things like guilt, and shame and jealousy, like those impede our ability to recognize that love surrounds us.
Yes.
I have to be reminded of that all the time. Um,
Yes.
the idea that like no tool, no experience is inherently good or bad, that we actually need to like take these things and learn from them, learn, um you know, and get to decide and show up how we want to respond to those things, and realizing that some things that are uncomfortable are actually for our growth and development.
Yes,
Something I need to be reminded of all the time,
yes,
but it's a core belief of mine. um yeah, and then to be Black is to be the closest thing on earth to God's essence. That's
yes,
10 toes down. 10 toes down in that one. Because you cannot tell me that if in especially in the traditions that I really believe in, we think about white as something that reflects, and we think about Black as something that absorbs all types of energy. And when we think about, maybe this is me putting my like Hotep-esque hat on, but it's like when we think about what God is, God just isn't the good things that happen in life. God is the entire, like all of it, the entire range of it, right? Because the good, the bad,
yeah.
all of it is that life force energy, that energy of creation. All of it can be used to direct us towards our highest purpose. All of that is God. And the only color that can absorb all of that is Black.
Mm,
That's my personal thing. And I was like,
mm,
I was like 10 toes down. Let me just, that's why that was at the end, because I was like, depending on who picks it up, that one might be a little controversial, but that's something that was really important to me.
hey,
Uh,
it makes sense to me. It makes sense to me. And I think that that is, again, a beautiful reflection, a beautiful belief, you know. And I think spending time to think about what your core beliefs are is, again, a political practice, you know. Um, yeah, and I'll end it at that. Because I think so many folks don't think about it in that way, you know. So to
that,
actually like root yourself and write it down and reflect on it, that's a political practice.
right,
So
right. It forces me to contend with my own internalized colorism, my own
yeah,
internalized anti-Blackness.
yeah,
And it's again another thing that I have to be regularly reminded of. And so, as a, I am no expert, I am no guru, I don't have all the answers. These are just things that have resonated with me over the
yeah,
years.
yes. And I definitely love the last one.
Mm.
You love nature differently when you understand that she's your mom. That again, that really resonated for me. I probably haven't shared this with you, but I lived in Alaska for a few years,
I was in Alaska
and
this
that is one of the places that regrounded
mm-hmm.
my beliefs in how healing nature is, and that if you open yourself up to nature, there's so many different ways that you can transform because it's transforming around you, right? Because that's
Right,
that's part of nature.
right.
So I greatly appreciate, again, not only the zine in itself, but this particular page. And yeah, like the takeaways from that.
Yeah, man. Alaska is so potent.
Mm-hmm.
First of all, they talk about niggas in Paris. Niggas in Alaska. I wouldn't have known that until I went there. They really be out there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it just, being able to be there, and you see so many different ecosystems,
Yes.
because they everything over there. They got desert, they got tundra, they got tropics, they got everything. Like you can see, so it's just so beautiful to see all these ecosystems just in conversation with each
Yeah.
other. It's potent. Alaska matters a lot. Um, yeah, that's cool. Sometime off time, I'm gonna need to talk to you about it, but I'm
Okay.
gonna keep it on
Okay.
stage.
I would absolutely love that. I was sharing with, I don't know if they're still here, but Sun Shadow Healing, Nat from Sun Shadow Healing, um, I was on their podcast talking about how creativity and healing work, you know, are are related. And I talked about Alaska and, like what happens to the body, when you're trying to adjust to 21 hours of sunlight, what happens to the body when you are trying to adjust to only 6 hours of sunlight, and just going back and forth between those different seasons and what it feels like there, So I love talking about my experience there. So yeah, anytime. Okay, let's see. Let me get on back up to my questions. Here we go. Let me get on back up to my questions because we're wrapping things up. Yeah, we're wrapping things up. Um, okay. I would love to know, do you have any upcoming offerings or events that you'd like to share with folks?
Um, yeah, so right now I have a 15% off all orders over 30% on my website. The code, if you use code Soulwork, it's also on the like announcement bar of my head of my website at the moment. Hi Sam. Um, it's in the announcement bar. Other than that, I'm taking it a little bit chill. I'm taking it a little bit chill at the moment. I'm about to defend my dissertation proposal, so I'm like, that's taking all of
Absolutely.
all of my things. But
Absolutely.
um, I do foresee a second version of the zine coming out sometime next year. I do foresee something happening with the collective story that's in the zine. I've been wanting to do something with that for years.
Love that.
Um,
Love that.
and yeah, I do a few big events every year, and so I'm done for 2023. But I'll definitely be having more Black Restoration Days, possibly some virtual events next year. Um, oh, I have a market on December 16th that I'm doing in Providence for folks who are here. But
Oh,
Short and Sticky is there's a 15% off sale on my website. I have a event on December 16th, a vending event, and then I'll be doing some cool stuff next year at Brown with the collective story virtually and beyond.
I love
So
that.
out
I
for you
love that.
boy.
Yeah. I love that. Please keep us, updated on what you have going on. Um, could you tell folks about some of the offerings that you have on your website? Because it's not just a theme that's on your website. You have so much stuff on there. So please just share
Yeah.
with us a little bit. Yeah.
Yeah, so I have four tea blends at the moment. I have one for uh, one for sleep and anxiety. So I have it's like a very calming, relaxing one. My sister actually drinks that tea blend every night, and she know like in lieu of her like drinking and smoking. So she's released those, and instead of doing that, her night routine has become drinking that tea, which I think is absolutely phenomenal. Um, I have one that is like it's also for anxiety, but it more so like it gives you a boost of like happy energy. So it's that lemon balm like sunshine energy. It's called Let Your Flowers Bloom. I have one that is gives you energy and focus and memory support. And with each one of these tea blends, it's not just an immediate effect. It both the herbs that are in each one of these blends give you like immediate support. And so one of them immediately helps with nervousness or anxiety or brain fog. And then it also will help do a slow and gentle detox to get rid of some of the underlying reasons why these things happen in the body. So when consistently, they actually help more over time. I have a skincare oil for people who have eczema and psoriasis. I actually have really bad eczema, but you would never know it because I make my own body products. There are incense that are made all natural, completely biodegradable packaging.
Mhm.
There is an herbal tarot deck. There's moss art. There are perfume oils. There's so much going on the website.
Yeah.
There usually is body butter that I've not had a chance to make yet this year because I've been working on my dissertation. But if you look around, it might show up at some point. No promises. Um, people be every year around time. People, where's the body? Where is it? Like, where? So I don't want to make too many promises on that one because I'm not trying to get jumped in my own Instagram account. Um, but yeah, so there's a lot going on the website. There's a few like events that are usually also up there on the events page, but there's nothing up there now, but there will be when that comes up.
Cool, cool. And then just let folks know that might be catching this on the replay. Where can we find you on the socials?
Yeah. So my personal page, which will always be the same, is I believe in soil. So
Mm,
like soil, like dirt, you know.
yeah.
My business page currently is Rocky's Root Care, but that will probably change soon since I'm no longer going by Rocky. My website currently is rockysrootcare.com. Even if that changes, I'll keep that redirect link so you don't even got to worry about that. That'll always be the case. You can always email me at ibelieveinsoil@gmail.com or rockysrootcare@gmail.com. Um, and you know, I'm always around. Call me, beat me if you want to reach me.
It has been a pleasure
Thank
connecting
you.
with you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much for your time and, joining us for this particular topic. Yeah, and don't be a stranger. I'll be connecting with you, especially if you have the capacity and the time for like the second edition of the zine. We would love to support you in the launch of that in any way
Oh,
that
thank
we can,
you.
So, yeah, just let us know how we can stay in community with you and support your work.
Thank you. Thank you, man. I
Mhm.
appreciate it so much.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll be in
Okay.
touch. It's been a pleasure. Thank you. Again, this is my sister in a different timeline. Love her so much.
I love that. Thank you all so much for
Thank
being here.
you.
And yeah, we'll check in with folks soon. We have another book chat coming up on the 30th. So if folks are around, definitely we'd love to see you in the comments. And yeah, thank you so much, Raquel. Please enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank
Thank you for folks that are in the chat. Please take care of yourself. Um, it's been a pleasure.
you. Yay. Have a beautiful rest of your day.
You too. Thank you so much.
Yes.